Hello friends, welcome to the video number 9 of the JavaScript video tutorial series. And well, on this video we're gonna start talking about data types. And well, I say start talking because there is actually a lot of material to cover. And this video is just gonna be like an introduction for you to know the different data types that you can find in JavaScript. On later videos, not necessarily the next one, for example. We are gonna be definitely talking about numbers, strings, which is basically a bunch of text characters together. Boolean values, we're gonna talk about that a lot when we start talking about comparison operators. We're gonna talk about objects. We're gonna talk about arrays, and actually arrays are treated as objects in JavaScript, and we're gonna see that in this video, but we are gonna treat them as a separate data type just for the purpose of explaining what arrays are and how they work. So again, we're gonna be seeing or talking about all of those things and specifics of data types in later videos, but this is just gonna be like an introduction for you to get to know the different data types. And something very important or very useful, I think, it's I want to show you how to use the typeof operator in JavaScript. And well, the typeof operator basically tells you, uh, well, precisely if you pass it some information. It can be direct data, or it can be like a variable, for example, and it would tell you, okay, what type of data is that data that you're giving it. So it can be very useful and powerful in your program. Um, and well, it's basically something just like Typeof. As you can see, Notepad++ is already giving me that special font. But if I do something like, for example, Typeof 3, and then I end my statement with a semicolon, save this and launch this in Chrome, well, I get nothing. And that is just basically because, okay, we are using the operator and it's actually working, but I didn't tell JavaScript, okay, you're actually going to display the result of this type of operator. So let's go in the easy way. Just document dot write, and then here we're gonna say type of 3. Save this, and okay, now it's telling me, okay, this is a number. I can say a string. To put a string, you can use single quotes or double quotes. Let's go again with the 3, but I mean between double quotes, and it's gonna tell me, okay, that's string. Now remember, the 3 is a number. It didn't tell me, and for you guys and girls that are coming from a different programming language, and probably you are used to say, okay, this is an integer, and something like this is a floating point number. JavaScript is just gonna tell you is a number. So this is something very important for JavaScript. There are only numbers. It doesn't matter if it's a floating point or an integer. JavaScript, again, just see numbers. Now again, we can go with single quotes. Now let's do an actual string of text, hello. And again, it tells me, okay, that's a string. I can say something like type of true, and it's gonna tell me that's a Boolean, and well, so on. So now, to actually show you the different data types, or some of the data types, I have prepared probably dramatic example, but I hope it works. And well, basically what I'm doing here is only in the first one I am declaring my variable. Remember, we have this var reserved word, so I'm declaring the variable and I'm not assigning anything right now. I'm just making the declaration, and then, well, I'm just making a line that is gonna say type of, because then I want to have displayed uh, the type of data that is contained in my variable. Then I'm making another space because here I'm gonna say, okay, the value, and then I want to have displayed what's the actual value that is stored in my variable, and then just a little bit more of a space. Now here I'm going to be assigned the number 3 to my variable. Here I'm going to be assigning hello, the string hello, to my variable, and then the 3.14, and then the value true, which we already saw this is a boolean. But what about null? We can assign a null value to my variable. This is an array, and again, remember I told you that arrays are treated as objects, so we're going to see what happens, what type of I get when I assign an array into my variable. This is actually an object. This is one way to declare or to state an object, and I'm going to assign that to my variable and see what type of I get and the actual value. I can also assign a function to my variable. I can assign an empty string, and finally I can undefined my variable. Again, I can make it undefined. So let's see if this worked. Okay, and there it is. So again, first, I, remember I just declared the variable, but I didn't assign anything to it. So it tells me, okay, the value is undefined, so the type is undefined. Then I assign the value of 3, then hello, then 3.14, and then true. So 3 is a number, typeof is a number. Hello is a string. 3.14 again is a number. Now the true is a boolean value. Now what about null? Null is an object. Remember the 1, 2, 3? This, we said this is an array of data. Well, it's telling me, okay, this is the value 1, 2, 3, but the type of is actually an object. So it's, I don't get an array. It doesn't tell me, okay, this is an array. It just tells me that's an object. Then we have our object, right? Animal, dog, breed, Labrador, which is, for the record, is my favorite type of dog. And well, it tells me, of course, it is an object. Then I have my function, do something, and the type of is a function. Then remember this value right here. This is just the empty string. So I get an empty string and it tells me, okay, this is a string. And then again, I made it undefined. Just take a look at this. This is not like a reserved word, and is again, it's also not going inside of like uh, brackets, parentheses, single quotes, double quotes, or anything. It's just the word undefined, and well, that make the value undefined, and the type of course, is undefined. So we saw very, very powerful and useful concepts in here. Well, first of all, now you know how to use the typeof operator in JavaScript to define or to be able to know what type of data is whatever is you are passing there, or you can pass a variable like we are seeing here and see what type of data is stored inside of that variable. Um, Another very important thing, well, is numbers. Again, JavaScript only see numbers. It doesn't matter if it's an integer or a floating point, it just see numbers. Strings, again, we saw how we can put strings on double quotes or single quotes. Again, JavaScript is going to recognize that as a string of text. Now, something that we talked about when we saw variables. Remember, you don't need to declare in other programming languages. You need to specify what type of data is going to be stored in your variable. In JavaScript, we don't do that. We don't need to declare what type of data is going to be stored in there, because as you saw here, we use the same container, the same variable, to store pretty much everything, right? A number, a string, a boolean value, an object, an array, even a function. So this is known in JavaScript, this is known as a dynamic data type. This can be pretty convenient. I don't have to be creating all these different variables to store everything. So I can use just one single container to store pretty much whatever I want. But this can also be pretty well, dangerous. Let's say if I am not putting enough attention to my program, then I can assign a different data type to my variable, and so I am trying to make an arithmetic operation, and all of a sudden, instead of a number, I get a, I don't know, a string of text. Probably the program is not going to crash, but it's going to definitely give me well, not my expected value, right, or the results that I am expecting. So again, it can be very useful and powerful, but it can also be very dangerous if we are not careful enough. And one last thing I want to show you is just about the null and undefined values. And well, I'm gonna just copy this from the tutorial in Spanish because this is almost 11 minutes now. So let's see, null it's basically equal to undefined, and null is strictly equal to undefined. We're gonna these are comparison operators. We're gonna talk about this later. I just want to show you now, I mean, if these two things are the same thing for JavaScript, null and undefined. So let's just save this, refresh the page, and I get true, false. That means they are basically the same, but they are strictly not the same. What does this mean? Well, this means that the value is the same. So null and undefined are basically telling you that something doesn't exist, right? So the value for null and undefined is the same. So that's why it's telling me for JavaScript this is true, but strictly they are not the same. What does this mean? Strictly, well, we already saw that the value is the same, but this means that the data type is not the same. We already saw here the null is the type of is an object, but the undefined, the type of is undefined. So even that the value is the same, the data type is not the same. So these operators are going to be very useful when we take a look at comparison operators. But now here you can see, okay, null and undefined are pretty much the same thing, or at least the value is the same. But again, they are different data types, so strictly they are not the same thing. Okay, so well, we cover a lot of material, and this is just again the introduction for the different data types in JavaScript. And well, as always, I hope that you have found this video interesting, but so about else useful, that you have found this video to be useful. So please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. And as always, thanks all of you for your time, for watching my videos, and I hope to see you on the next one.